Welcome, Flowgrade Nation, to another episode of the Flowgrade-show, where I'm seeking out high-performing individuals to inquire about their methods to reach the state of flow. For those who don't know, flow is the optimal state of consciousness where you perform at your highest, where time dilutes, where your ego vanishes, and where you feel the most alive. So far, I've had quite a lineup here, including Bulletproof Coffee creator Dave Asprey, CrossFit legend Kelly Starrett, flow expert and bestselling author Stephen Kotler, and Superman actor Brandon Routh. Today is no exception. I have another very special guest in Maneesh Sethi. Maneesh is a high-energy creative genius that has not only come up with viral YouTube videos, written several books, but he also started a very remarkable technology company in Pavlok. Pavlok creates these electroshocking wristbands that I'm wearing right now, which teaches you how to get rid of bad habits by shocking you every time you perform a bad habit. So you can either, get shocked by pressing the button, or you can connect it to your devices. And actually, anytime now that I go on Facebook while working, it will give me a slight electric shock. So this is the mind child of Maneesh, and I'm very excited to talk to him. He's so high energy and he talks so fast that you really have to pay attention to what he says. But I'm sure you will, and you will very much enjoy this episode. So here is Maneesh. Let's go. Maneesh.
Hello, hey.
Being on the Flowgrade-show here.
I'm excited to be here.
Great to have you. And, it's really difficult, I think, to explain to people who you are, because you're a book author, you've started tech companies, you created viral YouTube videos, you've done so many things. You actually had an NGO as far as I know. So how would you describe yourself right now when people ask, what do you do, who you are?
Finally, it's not as hard as it used to be. Right now I have one job, and I'm the CEO of Pavlok. So we create wearable devices to help people improve their behavior, especially through breaking bad habits and reducing addiction. Up until now, I was a digital nomad blogger. I travel the world doing random things in different countries and writing a blog about how to hack the system. The tagline was cheat codes for life. So how to get frequent flyer miles while traveling, or how to become a famous DJ in Berlin, or how to learn languages in just a few weeks. And it was kind of an outgrowth of my crazy ADHD mind, where I would just do random stuff in new countries and try to figure out a way to put them all together. So that's, right now, I'm the creator of Pavlok, wearable device company.
All right, I got that one too. Look at here, thanks to you. And I just want to, tell that story really quickly, because we actually ran into each other. Our common friend, our mutual friend, Brian Fabian Crane, introduced us in Berlin on a night out, and we had no idea who each other was, and we were, I'd say, partying together, and then all of a sudden we met at the biohacking conference, and I'm like, he looks so familiar. Where did I meet him before? And I think you thought the same thing. And then we went out, and then you told me that you actually spent 6 months in Berlin, right?
Yeah, I remember at the biohacking conference, I was like, oh, I'll add you as a Facebook friend. And I was like, wait, we're already friends. Wait, how do you know Brian? Hang on, we were at the same boat party. I remember this. That was crazy. I used to live in Berlin. I went to study abroad with my university, with Stanford. And we went to go study abroad, and Stanford had this cool program where it was an internship program. Stanford would pay a full-time salary as long as you got a full-time internship. So the intern company gets a free intern, you get a full-time salary, Stanford foots the bill. So I had my friend hire me to do 10 hours of work a week, and then he told them I was doing 40. Then I outsourced my 10 hours a week to India. So I was getting a full-time salary for doing 0 hours a week. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this time? So my friend was there, and I just met this guy actually while I was there, an American, and we were both thinking about becoming DJs. We both had the same DJ equipment, and we both said, what if we I just bought a domain name, 90days.tv, and I was like, what if we made like a 90 days project? We're going to become famous DJs in Berlin in 90 days. And so we tried our hardest, and it ended up being pretty successful. We bought Facebook fans. we created a fake booking agency that called up clubs. Hi, I'm Will from Regal Entertainment. I represent DJ Maneesh. He's got thousands of Facebook fans, et cetera, et cetera. Within 30 days, we were being flown around Europe playing shows for over 500 people. So it was like a really cool experience to go from nothing to DJ in a matter of a month.
What's the most famous club that you played in Berlin? Do you remember?
In Berlin, I didn't play at too many famous clubs. I played at a lot of clubs on Schlesische Straße.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like any Berghain-like clubs. But I did play in some big clubs in Warsaw, 15,000 meters squared, and Kamenie Łomenie are two of the bigger clubs in Warsaw that I got to play in. And I played a lot in small clubs, like About Blank we played in Berlin, which is a dubstep club, and a few others as well.
Oh, wow, not bad. DJ Maneesh. Gotta check him out. Okay, before we dive into the habit building in the Pavlok, I want to ask you one more story because I researched that, and I think a lot of my listeners are interested in that. And it said that you won a competition in 2009 by Tim Ferriss to live the 4-hour work week, I think.
Yeah.
Can you tell me that story really quickly?
Sure. He had a digital 4-hour work week lifestyle video competition. And so people made videos about their 4-hour work week lifestyle. And in my case, I had dropped out of Stanford for 2 years. I was traveling. I had started this passive income business. So I discovered this system where you could basically find keywords that were easy to rank for on Google and add AdSense to those keywords, and then you would generate passive AdSense revenue. This was in 2008. And so back then it was a lot easier than it is now. And so I'd written this software program where I had a 4-hour per week, is 3 hours and 59 minutes per week. I would generate a giant CSV of all the potential keywords. And then I wrote this software program that would filter out the keywords based on the cost per click and the number of monthly searches, and then compare that to the competition of the page ranks of the top 4 results for that keyword. So you could see which keywords are valuable whatsoever, and then which keywords have a chance of ranking for. And then I had built out a whole system. So I would just press a button and it would automatically filter out the CSV for those documents, those numbers. Then it would transfer all those keywords to a group of writers I had hired in India, who would transfer it over to editors, who would transfer it over to other people who would post it online. And it was completely systematic to build up passive income. So that was a really, really cool program that I'd written, and it allowed me to start living like a digital nomad. And so that video, I think, was the winner or the second place on, but it was one of the top 3 finalists on the 4-hour workweek lifestyle. And it led to me actually creating my blog. Back then it was maneeshsethi.com. I put up a landing page and grabbed a bunch of email addresses of people who had seen that video, and from the Tim Ferriss site. And then those email addresses became my first Hack the System audience that eventually grew.
Is that still running, that passive income business?
It's almost zilch now. It still runs, but I haven't done any edits on those articles in like years. So I make almost no money from them anymore. But it's very hard. Now it's more about quality than it is about quantity. So it's a lot harder to do that kind of game now. And yeah, it was really cool. It lasted quite a while.
That's amazing, man. And I mean, you must come out of a really smart family, because your brother is also really doing his thing. And wow. And I actually, on that note, I heard one story that one time Brian told me that you threw a party for Tim Ferriss in 2010 in Berlin with a friend, with Rockman, I think, right?
Yep, that was part of that is an episode of it from the 90 Days Project.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so yeah, we did throw a party. That was the first time I really got to spend time with Tim, and it was very, very helpful. He's a really cool guy.
Man, awesome. That's really cool. All right, let's switch gears and jump into what you right now probably are doing 15 hours a day or more, which is teaching people how to crush bad habits, right? And I was actually really impressed yesterday and I'm very honored to be one of the first testers of your extension. And maybe you want to talk about, first of all, like, how did you come up with that idea to create an electroshocking wristband? Because when I tell that to most people, they say, what crazy mind did come up with that? But like, what bothered you? What itch did you want to scratch in order to?
So, I mean, I can tell you in a lot of different contexts where the idea came from. Very specifically, from Hack the System, I used to have a section on study hacks or productivity hacks. How can one get better at being more productive? Internally, that's always been my core failure. My own little imposter syndrome has always been the fact that I've been unable my entire life to just sit down and do a task. And so what I did was I had done a bunch of experiments on how to get myself to do stuff. And I find there's a lot of categories, you know, like the Eisenhower matrix, where you have important and urgent and not important, not urgent, and important, not urgent. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. My dad always told me that.
Yeah, they always say, like, do the important and urgent things, and then the second thing you need to do are the stuff that's not urgent but important. Those are far more important to do than the things that are urgent but not important.
Yeah.
Yet what happens in real life is that you end up doing the urgent stuff. And so I've noticed that there's very specific things these days that are really difficult to finish. Things that could be good for you but aren't guaranteed. Things like guest posts or applying for a grant or applying for a program where you may or may not win often drive huge results. So in my case, there was two things. I wanted to write a guest post for a blog, and I wanted to apply for a television show pilot. And these were two things that were on my calendar but kept getting pushed down and down and down and forever. And I was like, look, either I'm never going to do it or I'm going to do it. So how about I just hire somebody to make me do it? And I started off with the idea of like, all right, let me put up a Craigslist ad and ask someone just to come and make sure I do my work. And then I was like, what if I make it funny? What if I hire her to slap me in the face if I get off task?
That's such a funny video.
Yeah. So if you Google slapped by Craigslist or whatever, you'll see this video. And I hired some girl to slap me in the face every time I went on Facebook. And of course it worked. It was very, very effective. Every time I went on Facebook, it was more about the accountability than it was about the punishment. It was more about having someone sit down next to me who I said, hey, help me get this done. And then she helped me get it done. But the slap is what made it interesting. The slap is what made it entertaining. And so I made a blog post about it, and it went viral. It went insanely viral. And so a couple of months later, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm like, hey, man, we should make like a dog collar that zaps me every time I go on Facebook. And he said, yo, let's go to Radio Shack. And so we did. This guy was an electrical engineer, and he really rapidly, we took a dog collar. It had a remote control and the collar. We broke apart the remote control, and we just cut the two wires that were connected to the on button. And we plugged those two wires into an Arduino, which is like a little off-the-shelf breadboard hardware thing. And we set it up, you plug the Arduino into your laptop and you can rapidly code. And we wrote, if user goes on Facebook, then connect the two wires. And so what happens is, as soon as I went on Facebook, I would get zapped. And we made this video, and it was actually really funny. I have it later on if you want to see it. And I was about to post this video on Facebook, and then I said to myself, wait, this is actually really, really interesting. There are 1 million wearables out there that are tracking everything I do. This one's actually changing what I do. Maybe there's something deeper here. Maybe this is actually a real product, not just a cool, funny gag. And so what happened was the next 3 months, I tried to get this. This is now January of 2013. I spent the next 3 months trying to come up with a way to make a prototype. And I found that the people wanted it was going to be like $100,000 to make a prototype. It was going to be expensive, long, difficult. I wasn't sure. Anyway, I distinctly remember calling my brother in March of 2013 and saying, I really hope I figure out a way to get this product made, because if I don't really soon, I'm going to give up on it. And just like I've given up on every other project I start. And my biggest fear is that this might be the one not worth giving up on.
Yeah. And
in April, I gave up. It was over. I couldn't figure it out. I gave up. I was on to other things. I bought a ticket to Thailand. I was going to go kickbox. And anyway, long story short, I randomly got linked to this incubator in Boston called Bolt. It's a hardware startup incubator. Think of Y Combinator for hardware.
B-O-L-T? Is it B-O-L-T?
BOLT.io. Right. Yeah. And so I submitted an application. It was like 300 words with smileys and a video of me getting zapped. And they called me, and they had 900 applicants. Then they had like a B2B slot, they had a B2C slot, and they had a wild card slot. And I was a wild card. I was a guy, everybody else in the company who had been accepted already had sales, already had a product, had multiple engineers. And I was just a dude with a pretty cool idea with a background in marketing. And so they decided to invest $50,000 in me. And most importantly, make me sit in a room in a hardware facility for a year in Boston. That was a big deal. So that's how we got started. I ended up sitting there, and actually I should probably explain to users what we actually do. So for the first few years, we were building this device. The first year, I was designing this device.
What was that? Just to get the timing right.
I started in Bolt in August 2013.
Oh wow! Okay.
We had our first prototype done about a year later in May 2014. Then we hosted our Indiegogo campaign in October and November of 2014. And it was in November of 2014 that we had the big breakthrough in our business about self-administered electric sensations.
When did Ashbury come on, just out of interest? Because he's part
he came on early. He came on probably in like March of 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, and JJ Virgin, as well as John Romanello, all these guys came on back then. So back in the beginning, we thought that it was a device. So the device I was building was essentially the dog collar with Bluetooth capabilities. So it vibrated, it could beep, it could zap, and it could shine lights, LEDs. It was designed to be smart, like a smart device. So it knew when to vibrate or when to zap. And for the first year, I thought it had to be smart. I thought that it needed to know, that it would know when you were being a bad boy and punish you with a zap for doing so. That entire year, our company was focused on forming habits. So if I don't go to the gym by X o'clock, then it should vibrate, then it should beep, then it should zap. And if you take it off your wrist, it'll charge you money. And I had all these like how to form habits stuff. But then suddenly we started to notice a few users were starting to break bad habits. And we discovered this one study, which, oh, perfect, it's in my pocket. We discovered these. We discovered the science of aversion therapy, which is I don't know if you can see this, but it's a little booklet that says evidence.
Yeah.
We discovered this what's called aversion therapy. And aversion therapy is a type of clinical therapy that was used in America in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, back when classical conditioning was the rage. So today we think of positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement and punishment, and we think of that as the only way. But we've all studied Pavlov's dogs. We all know what classical conditioning is.
Yeah.
Yet for some reason it's disappeared from the mindset and ecosystem of using it in like training or for humans. So here's what's interesting. With aversion therapy, and the first study we found was this one, which I'll see if you can see the headline.
I read it. It's up to 60, is it that one? 61.4% of subjects quit smoking with 5 days of aversive conditioning.
So we found that, so here's how it worked. In this study, there was 800 subjects who went to a clinic, they went to a trial. They said to the clinician, hey, we want to quit smoking. They all smoked 2 packs a day. The doctor said, okay, come in, and for the next 5 days, for about 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to give you like our normal, like, why do you smoke? When do you feel like it? Like cognitive behavioral therapy conversation, followed by 20 minutes of an aversion therapy session. The aversion therapy session was done like this. You go stand over there next to that wall. Now, pull out your lighter and shock yourself. Now, light your lighter and shock yourself. Now, take a puff and shock yourself. Now continue to do this for every puff for the rest of the cigarette. Okay, you finished your first cigarette. Now let's do it again. Do it again. Do you have any friends, Max, who have drunk too much of a type of alcohol, maybe tequila, and suddenly the smell of it makes them sick? Do you know anybody?
Yes, I do, definitely.
A lot of people have this problem. What's interesting about that is that almost everybody has a friend who's drunk too much of an alcohol. They can't drink it again, even though they did it to themselves, even though it only took one night. For the rest of their lives, that smell is gone. That's the creation of an aversion in your brain. It's the same as when you're a baby and you touch like a electric shock wall outlet, and then suddenly you never touch the outlet again.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Manish, may I ask you one question? Because that is actually one question I was thinking about a lot is, does it really matter, let's say when you shock yourself, that you really think about the act, let's say, of smoking or of whatever you want to get rid of? Or is there a danger that I could associate that shock then with something else. Let's say, for example, what came to mind was when I want to, I don't know, I'm with a woman and I want to get rid of the bad habit of, I don't know, scratching my face or something like that. And I shock myself whenever I do that. But then all of a sudden I might associate that with kissing her.
Yeah, good question. It's actually very mental. And this is why I tell people that self-administered works far better than when it zaps you. So to reduce a bad habit, that's a different conversation we'll come back to. To rid yourself of a bad habit, let me finish explaining the study and then I'll tell you how we reproduce it and then maybe it'll make more sense. So in the study, they had these 800 subjects, 2-pack-a-day smokers, go and zap themselves for 20 minutes a day while they smoked a cigarette. Then they measured them a year later. If you look at a normal Nicorette patch user who uses like the patch, if they use it every single day for 6 months, they have about a 7.5% chance of quitting smoking. In this study, 55% of the users who did 5 days of therapy a year later had not smoked a single cigarette. That's 5 days, 55% versus an average case of 6 months, 7%.
Wow.
So we're looking at massive effects in smoking. So what the craziest part here was that it was self-administered because they didn't have smoking sensors or detectors or even remote controls in the study. They just had self-administered button press. So we started looking at more of these studies and we found a lot of examples of self-administered zap being used for nail biting, unhealthy eating, obsessive compulsive thoughts, chronic cough, gambling, heroin addiction, stuff like that. All of it, again, self-administered. And this is when we started to realize that there was a very interesting story between why this type of therapy disappeared, which is fascinating, but the fact that it was so powerful then disappeared because of social reasons. And now nobody even remembers why it went away, but we all remember that, like, everyone's heard the word aversion therapy in their head. Everybody knows classical conditioning, yet we continuously do positive reinforcement as the only way to succeed in habit change. So this was a big breakthrough for me. The self-administered is the key here. So now coming back to your question about when it zaps you versus you zapping yourself versus will you associate it with the wrong thing. I found that when you zap yourself, you have complete control over why the zapping is happening. You have the ability, the way that it works in the brain is that your thoughts are here, your prefrontal cortex, thoughts and language and cognition is here, but your habits are stored here in your basal ganglia in the back of your brain. So you can't really shit right there. And your basal ganglia understands language. It does not understand language. It does not understand thought. It knows pain and pleasure and nothing else. It's used to enjoying the act of smoking or of scratching because it scratches an itch. That itch, a good example of that itch is brushing your teeth, where if you don't brush your teeth, you feel weird, like you want to brush your teeth. But that feeling is fake. Your brain created that because it's done it enough times in a row that it feels uncomfortable leaving your teeth unbrushed. So in the same way, if you scratch your face enough days in a row, you'll feel uncomfortable not scratching your face. If you go to the gym every day, you'll feel uncomfortable not going to the gym. It's all the same. It's all habit. Your brain just knows that it likes to do what it normally does because that's like a dormant resting position for the brain. So when you associate a slightly negative stimulus at the same time as smoking a cigarette, your brain, the reptile brain, goes, holy crap, I'm used to enjoying this, and suddenly something is wrong. Suddenly something is wrong. Something is wrong, and I'm not sure if X is causing Y or Y is causing X or if they're related or not, so I'm going to signal daddy brain to be aware the next time I catch myself having the urge to do this habit. So nail biters by day 2 will say that they find themselves aware when they bring their hands close to their face, that they notice their thoughts of wanting to smoke before they actually step out the door, which is a big breakthrough for habits. That's a big, hard part to change, being aware. So getting back to your question, when you hyper-focus on why the zap is occurring, it actually doesn't require you to be doing the action whatsoever. You can be thinking about the action and zap yourself for thinking about it, and it will make you more aware the next time you start to do it. When you are zapping yourself, the power lies within you. Now, things change when it zaps you, and this is kind of funny. I wrote this Chrome extension that you played around with that zapped me every time I went on Facebook, I forgot that it was installed, and so I was getting zapped all the time. And I was so pissed off at my device. I didn't know why I was getting zapped, and it made me angry at the device, not at myself. So that didn't help me break the habit until it was clear why I was getting zapped.
Yeah.
In the same way, a dog won't be trained until the dog knows why it's getting the reward or why it's getting zapped. You need to train yourself to know why the things are happening. And self-administration just super shortcuts that process. When it zaps you, it makes you have to think and realize that you're making a mistake.
Is there actually a specific reason why you introduced that sound? Like, let's say I would add another tab and I have the 6-tab rule right now. Man, I got shocked several times today because I had my tabs open and then I wanted to close them down. I had so many open that whenever I closed one down, noticed again, so I got shocked again. But I think that the expectation of the shock already made me want to like close the next tab and so on. So it was not even the shock itself, but the sound that I associated the pain with.
Yeah, the fear of the shock, it's the indicator, right? So one of the goals we have is how do we maintain the strength of the shock over long periods of time? And having, like, so with dogs, with dog collars, they'll beep, then they'll zap, then they'll beep, then they'll beep, then they'll zap, then they'll beep, 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 then they'll zap, and then they never need to zap again. Just the beep alone is enough to indicate that a zap is coming.
Okay.
So with the case of your tab extension, I can lie and say like that was all planned and stuff, but no, I was just testing out vibrate, beep, then zap as like increasing. But it is very effective. You'll notice that when you get a vibration, because for the listeners, Max is talking about a Chrome extension that works with Pavlok, where you set the number of tabs you want to have open in your browser. If you set the max tabs to 9, and then you open up 8 tabs, your wrist will vibrate. If you open up 9 tabs, your wrist will beep. And if you open up 10 tabs, it will start to zap you. You'll notice that as soon as you get to 8 tabs, within a day or two, you'll naturally start going through your tabs and closing all the ones you don't need anymore. I'm sure you've noticed this, Max.
Yeah.
That as soon as you feel either the vibration or the beep, you know something's coming.
Right now, I only have like 4 or 5 tabs open. And I usually have like 15 open. So ever since last night when we tried that out, and I can do it right now, actually. I can add another tab and it should shock me that I was logged off for a second, so it might take a while. But while it's loading up, we can jump to the next question, because right now it's really focused on creating pain. And this was actually one of our readers that wanted to know, is there also an idea in Pavlok to create a rewarding experience?
Yeah, definitely. So we'll start off with a simple rewarding experience, vibration. So in a lot of the features that we're building out now, we're using vibration as a positive indicator. So for example, I have an integration that works with Rescue Time. I don't know if you're familiar with Rescue Time, Max.
I am, yeah.
But Rescue Time is cool. Rescue Time is an app that measures your productivity and gives you a score between 0 and 100%. And there's a API endpoint that we have where it knows your productivity over the last 30 minutes. So if your productivity goes under 50% over the last 30 minutes, your wrist will start to beep. If it goes under 30%, it will start to zap. But if you maintain it over 80%, then it will start to vibrate. And the goal is to keep it in the vibration period. So vibration being a positive reinforcement indicator and beeping and zapping being a negative reinforcement indicator is the haptic angle of our product. But it's the beginning of what we're trying to do. Sorry, there's like something going off right now.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I don't want to talk too much about
no, it was just I guess you guys had it in mind, and I think that was the biggest question because.
So what we're doing is actually creating this is a great question because we discovered something very interesting. It's actually surprisingly easy to break a bad habit. If you want to break a bad habit, zap yourself for 5 days while you do the bad habit. It won't happen anymore. The hard part is getting someone to stick through with those 5 days. It's forming the habit of using our product. So we've been playing around with exactly how to do this. And my background is in social psychology, particularly in cognitive biases and heuristics. And one of the biggest and most powerful ways is the fear of loss. It's a lot easier to get someone to do something if I were to take $10 off of out of your bank account and I say, I'll give it back to you if you do 10 push-ups, you're a lot more likely to do those 10 push-ups than if I were to say, do 10 push-ups and I'll give you $10. The chance for reward is not as motivational as the potential for loss. And so what we started to do is play around with how we can use this in our product. the key is, so the long story short is you start off with the product, you pay $200 for the device, and next year you'll start off with 100 volts in your bank account. That's an in-game currency called volts. Mm-hmm. Those volts are worth $10 cash, but you can't withdraw it until you've gone through a 5-day onboarding audio sequence.
Okay.
Once you've gone through the 5 days, now you can withdraw those $10, the 100 volts to PayPal, or you can take those 100 volts and use it to unlock another course or download the alarm clock. And you'll earn more volts by hitting your positive daily goals. So if you walk 10,000 steps, you'll earn another 10 volts or another $1 a day. If you walk if you write 750 words, you'll earn up to $1 a day. And you can spend those on, again, cash or on redeeming it for healthy physical items or digital Pavlok integrations. It's like our app store has a different currency. The goal here is to get people to associate volts with positive, and particularly when they're on their way, walking more steps, they'll get vibration patterns. When they're lacking or failing, they'll get beeps and zaps. We want them to associate that vibration with the pattern of doing good and a particular beeping sound with earning voltage.
Yeah.
That positive reinforcer will be the association that we use to help people form positive, healthy habits.
Wow, man, there's so many ideas. I think that when most people hear about it the first time, they think it's a nice little gadget, but there's so much science behind it. And you guys, you have so many ideas.
That's my problem, bro. There's always so many ideas and nobody executes. So that's the trick.
I just jump in with a sidetrack question because you're also very familiar with Bulletproof, obviously, but how is your personal routine? Do you actually biohack yourself? Do you increase this creativity with some sort of hacking?
So I actually do my best to reduce my creativity. We found that, okay, so I was talking to you a little bit about personalities briefly before, but are you familiar with like Myers-Briggs or conscientiousness, Big Five?
No, I studied at Boston University where you are right now. I mean, in Boston, and I was a psychology major, so I'm familiar with
So you're familiar with the perceiving versus judging function. Which is finishers versus starters.
Yeah.
So there's this thing called perceiving or judging. It's you can think of it as a type A personality versus a type B personality. Or essentially, J's tend to finish what they start and feel uncomfortable leaving stuff undone, and perceivers tend to start new things, but they have trouble finishing what they start. They feel uncomfortable finishing the last email, or feel uncomfortable booking the ticket. They like to leave opportunities open. And in American society, we consider that those people who are perceivers are ADHD, that we have a disorder. Right. That because we don't finish everything we start, we're morally bad in a lot of ways, or at least have a physical ailment. And if you look at the science behind it, they're actually right on most factors. People who finish what they start tend to live longer. They don't have divorces. They don't get STDs. They don't smoke drugs. It's high. They make more money. Finishing what you start or judging is highly correlated with everything positive except for one thing. And that one thing is creativity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
People who finish what they start don't have the ability to see. They're really good at execution, but they don't see the bigger picture. It's almost like hunters versus gatherers. Gatherers are executing on finishing rows of harvesting food, whereas hunters are making sure that there's no saber-toothed tigers around while they approach gazelle. And what's interesting is that people like me are told that we're broken or that we have disorders because we are creative. And so we think that everybody's creative and just other people don't have the ability to execute. But we don't have the ability to execute. Mm-hmm. But it's wrong. People who are good at executing have trouble figuring out what to do next. They need somebody to tell them. And if somebody, you'll see this often with almost every Fortune 500 startup CEO was severely ADHD. Think of Steve Jobs, or think of Thomas Edison, or think of Richard Branson. All of them have somebody next to them, a COO, who is their executor, the person who finishes things they start.
Right.
So, it's a combination of the two that build greater companies. So you were asking me, how do I get more creative? Well, the first thing I did was realize that I don't need to be somebody who executes. I always felt bad about myself because I could never get myself to just sit down and write an article. It was massive imposter syndrome that still remains with me to today, but it's a lot less now. And what I realized is that the secret is not to do that. It's to have other people sit down next to me who are executors and hire for that trait, and have those people, I give them an idea and a list of what to do, and then I just let them go and I just walk away. And I come back and I tell them how it can be improved, and then I walk away. But you ask me to sit down and just like, I haven't opened my email for like 2 months. Like, I cannot do my emails. So I've just given up on it. Like, I'm not going to try. Yeah. So, but somebody else can do it better than I can. So that's kind of the big thing about that. So I do have methods for training focus. And it is very important that people understand that focus and creativity are opposites. You cannot be creative and focused at the same time. It is not. It's like saying I want to be thin and fat at the same time. It can't be done.
Right.
So there are particular methods I use and particular biohacks I use for specific purposes. From a creativity standpoint, I'm naturally creative, so I try to cut that down a little bit.
How do you become more focused? What's your strategy for focus?
So I will tell you that the super secret power that I still don't have, that I know is the magical way to be more focused, is actually pretty fucking obvious. Sleep on time, wake up early, have a morning routine, drink enough water, exercise, and meditate.
Yeah.
That will make you focused.
Yeah.
Of course, barring that, since no biohackers are willing to do that, other stuff that works really well is the ability to, so meditation.
But do you do that actually now? That you try to include that in your daily routine now?
I don't have a daily routine. I do not have a routine. I regret to inform you that I do not have a routine right now. It has fallen by the wayside. But I found that
there are to yourself. That's good in a way. You know?
No, I mean, yeah. If I were good at forming habits, I wouldn't have started a company built around a product where I needed something to shock me to make me do good habits. So I do know that there are specific habits which lead to massive ramifications. Exercise, meditation are big ones. So exercise-wise, I now pay a trainer. He comes to my house. I have a gym in my house. I work out. That's simple. You pay the guy, he shows up, I exercise. It's the most effective money I have. Mm-hmm. So exercise tends to make me eat better, which tends to make me sleep better, which tends to make me do like better habits. So I found that starting off with exercise is a good one. Sleep is another hugely important one, because what happens with a lot of biohackers is we get into these feedback loops of bad habits. So like, oh, well, I'll take modafinil because I don't need to sleep. And then suddenly you don't sleep enough. So you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'll take modafinil. And then I don't need to sleep. And then you don't sleep enough. And then it's a cycle where you've taken the drug and now you don't sleep. So you need more of the drug, and the drug stops losing its efficacy very quickly when you actually don't have any sleep on you. Right. So like the key secret here is get enough sleep. Sleep is like the first key thing here. Secondly, I look a lot at specific neurotransmitter levels for biohacking. So we discover that you can optimize for personality types, and from personality types, you can pull out average levels of neurotransmitters, and you can use that information to adjust them based on specific habits and tactics. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I'm an ENTP. I have high dopamine levels, and I have high serotonin levels as well. And in most cases, high norepinephrine levels, which means that fight or flight response. I'm always looking around for the next thing. Any distraction gets my attention. So the way to fix me is not to take Adderall. Adderall will make me have even higher norepinephrine levels. It'll make me think I'm focused, but instead I'll be responding more than I'm actually executing. What does work is meditation. Yeah. Meditation will increase serotonin and drop my dopamine levels, which allows me to be able to calm down and resist those new distractions in my mind.
So let me get that right. Naturally, you have high dopamine, high epinephrine, but also high serotonin, or what was that lower?
Yeah, my type is high. In all the various.
You know, this is also really interesting. And, you know, you're on the Flowgrade-show, and we are much into flow. I'm a flow hacker in a way. And we had Stephen Kotler on there, which you know as well. And so I'm really interested in that, actually. And I see in you the certain flow type that probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably get into flow a lot through pattern recognition, which is what Stephen Kotler calls creativity as well. So you notice patterns, you combine things, and all of a sudden you're in the flow. Is that how it works for you?
Yeah. It's called that's kind of how I imagine creativity is. It's the growth of ideas that branch through branching structures that somehow create connections in the depths of the brain. But yeah, I get into flow through extroverted intuition or speaking ideas out loud. So I'm unable to generate ideas by listening or by writing or by thinking. The only way I generate ideas is by talking. And so other people will say, like, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's why you can never learn unless you're listening. That's bullshit for me. I cannot learn unless I'm talking. The only way for me to build connections is to actually extrovert my ideas. And this is part of a Myers-Briggs type of cognitive functions, which is how does data sort of interact in your world? Other people will have like a more of a dominant function of extroverted thinking. This is the common executive, my brother's type, for example. The ENTJ is what it's called in Myers-Briggs. Their primary function is to create order. So when they speak out loud, they won't have the plan inside ready, but as soon as the words come out of their mouth, the deliverable date, action items, and to-do lists are out loud spoken, and it's generated through speaking. So mine is generating ideas through speaking, and my brothers would be generating action items through speaking. And that's the primary function that they work with. And you'll see that those are completely opposite, yet somewhat similar. One is coming up with ideas, and one is like cutting off the ideas to make them actionable. That's why it works well together.
So what happens when you put you and your brother in one room? Is that an explosion of then creativity and action? Or because I have 2 younger brothers, and what happens when I get together with them, it's usually, it doesn't really end well oftentimes. But
if you're talking about me with my brother versus me with my brother's personality type, those are 2 different things. Me with my brother, we get along very well. He's my number 1 mentor, but we have definitely a younger brother, me, older brother relationship. So it's like a lot of advice from him and a lot of like complaining from me. And so that's just our dynamic, and that's just our frame. But if you put me in a room with an ENTJ, especially what I'm working with, and I'm trying to hire like ENTJs as much as possible because they're just so perfect to work with. If you see us going together, it's like a guy who just focuses on what needs to be done and stays awake and makes sure it gets done and knows how to delegate and knows how to do it right. That's not me. Okay. I'm the guy who's like, we could be, maybe we should make a Pavlok that allows me to do gesture recognition. And we can add like a microphone so we can speak into it like Siri. Oh, look, I just found this new node language. We could totally build a module for that. And then the ENTJ will be like, dude, put it on the calendar. We'll discuss it on the next monthly meeting. Right now, I think the best thing you've said is we are going to add a node module since that can be done today. So I'm going to, and he'll get up and grab a piece of paper or grab a wall and marker and be like, so we need to, step 1, identify 10 candidates who are potentially open for this. I'll take this task. You take the task of writing, and then they'll draw out a plan, an action item plan, and then consistently bug me until I follow through with that plan. Mm-hmm. That is what happens when you put me in a room with a J.
Awesome.
You'll see execution, meaning creativity.
I can see, just for the record, so your type is INTP, right? Is that right?
ENTP.
ENTP.
Yeah.
That's you. And ENTJ, that's what you want to hire.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, no, that's great. Like I love MBTI. And do you actually use it to hire for your firm? That's amazing.
Very, very hard.
So
the tests that people give are wrong. They're so wrong. Like everyone will get mad, and people are always like, "It's bullshit." Everyone is like, I don't believe that stuff at all because like I took it twice and the tests gave me different scores, so therefore it's wrong. And I'm like, all right, guys. First of all, if a test gives you different results twice in a day, now it could be that everything is wrong. You're right. But it could be that the test is unreliable. It's asking the wrong questions.
Right.
It doesn't mean the model is wrong. It could mean the model is wrong, but it doesn't have to mean the model is wrong.
Right.
And in fact, what happens is all these questions on the test are so like orthogonal. They're like, do you find yourself in the center of the room or on the edge of the room? Do you find yourself being like liking people or liking ideas? It's like, what fucking questions are you asking? Instead, they don't ask the real question, which is, do you find yourself gaining energy or losing energy with new people? When you walk into a room, do you have your mind in your head thinking about other stuff, or do you notice the colors and the smells and the sounds? That's that second question. When you walk in a room, do you notice the colors and smells and sounds, or do you have your mind in your head thinking about other stuff? That's a direct question asking you, are you sensor or are you intuitive? Mm. It's not asking what if X, Y. It's saying, when you walk in a room, do you tend to do X or Y? It's directly linked to the model. And so we found that those questions were able to get people's personality types in 4 to 5 questions rather than 80 to 90. And then also behavioral data. So you can easily tell a perceiver versus a judger. Just walk by them and snap your fingers. A judger won't look up, a perceiver will look up. It's very obvious. You can tell a sensor versus an intuitive based on the ways that they describe objects in the room. You can tell those options. Like, I use that rather than using tests to identify personality types. Like if I were to guess your type, I'd say what? ENFJ, maybe ENTJ?
Yeah, I think actually I don't have in mind. I haven't looked at my results. I've done it several times. And
do you find yourself when you hang out with new people in the evening, do you tend to gain energy or lose energy?
No, I gain energy. I'm the last one going home.
Okay.
Like
when you walk into a new room, do you tend to notice colors and smells and sounds, or do you always have your mind in your head thinking about other stuff?
No, I'm thinking about other stuff. Like I actually, yeah, go ahead.
When you make your decisions, is it typically based on like what's right, rational, correct, self-important, or is it typically based on how others feel, how others will take it?
Yeah, most others will take it.
Yeah, and then lastly, when you start a task, do you feel uncomfortable leaving it undone, or do you feel uncomfortable finishing things without starting something new in the middle?
No, I feel I usually I'm not as I'd say as strong as you, but I have a lot of things on my plate all the time and always push them to the next day, and I need people to execute behind me to clean up.
Okay. So when you have like a list of like a to-do list of items, do you feel great when you check it off, or do you actually kind of have trouble doing the task and finishing checkoffs? Do you feel good about the checkoff, or do you feel like, oh no, wait, I didn't do a great job, I want to perfect it, I got to finish this?
I do feel great. Like I really have to-do lists, and I love checking off things. And sometimes I write things down that I've already done and check them off.
Okay, cool. So you're probably an ENFJ, and you might be towards the perceiver side, ENFJ with a P tendency.
I think that's probably about it, because I recognize some of the things that you've said before. I recognize myself in them, but I definitely am not as... I do get things done. I'm more of an executioner with, like what you said, pretty much.
Yeah, ENFJs are great, man. They're like the world's perfect type. Everybody fucking loves ENFJs. So they're like the most like critical people in like HR or like leading teams, like the friendly person in the world. But they're also the best cult leaders, which is a cool thing.
Very awesome.
Everybody trusts them.
There's so much information.
So yeah,
Manish, I have a couple more rapid fire questions that I want to know from you before. But hey, this is so much great content, and I can't wait to get that up. So this is actually from the Tim Ferriss Show question, but I'd love to know what $100 or less purchase has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 to 12 months.
$100 or less purchase has most positively, I would say Headspace, the app.
That's awesome.
Which makes me start meditating. I would say the book. I would definitely say the book, The Art of Speed Reading People, which is all about this personality typing, did more. So The Art of Speed Reading People is probably even better.
The Art of Speed Reading. Fantastic.
People. The Art of Speed Reading People. Got it.
Okay, how about that one? When was the last time you were starstruck, and by whom?
I mean, I met Richard Branson on an island a couple months ago, but I wasn't really starstruck.
That's a big deal, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like I feel like I've lost my starstruckness these days because I don't know if you saw my last blog post yesterday about Pavlok, celebrities using Pavlok.
Yeah.
But I got to meet a lot of people who are celebrities, and they're all just normal people.
That's why I asked actually that question, because you meet so many interesting people that I wondered if you actually do get starstruck, and if, by whom. But I can understand
I'd say people I respect the most. Like if I were to meet like Elon Musk, but I don't feel like I would be starstruck. Like I feel like I would be like ready to contribute.
So let's actually connect that to another question. What is one person that you consider successful?
Successful?
Like who comes to mind when you think of successful?
I think that everyone has their own definition of success, and I don't like to make characterizations of people based on that word success.
Personally,
but I will say, like personally, people that I aspire to learn from, I would say definitely Elon Musk and Steve Jobs are the two biggest people in my mind. Okay. And it's a totally different game when you start to have this Myers-Briggs personality typing thing in your back pocket, because you start to see how they are successful, but not in the same way. Depending, like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs is a great example, and you'll see this in a million people's writing. Like Steve Jobs had big ideas and didn't really care about money, whereas Tim Cook or Bill Gates cared about winning and money. Right. And you'll see that like they left the future so that they could win the present, and that's a very both are successful, but both in different ways. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I the people that I'm most influenced by for sure are Steve Jobs, a little bit of Edison, definitely Elon Musk. Those are some people who are my
these are great people to I think.
And Richard Branson.
After, yeah, no, very very cool. Okay, I think that most people, and also when I'm around you, you know this high energy guy, and I think it's pretty clear. What drawer kind of to put you into. This creative guy comes up with all these ideas but doesn't finish things. But what is actually in your, when you want to tell people, what is a misconception about you that people hold?
People think I'm really productive and that I work a lot of hours in the day, and I don't. In fact, like I'll tell you, like I'm looking it up right now. It's just fucking embarrassing. I probably spend like over 50% of my day is just wasted on Facebook or chat, or people think I'm productive and it blows. Yeah, today 41% productive. So 5 hours and 36 minutes were logged today, and I already spent 1.9 hours on Facebook. Damn.
Is that rescue time?
Yeah, I'm looking at rescue time right now. I mean, I never am more than 50% productive throughout the day. So, but you know, that's why I'm successful.
Yeah, you know, I think you get a lot of ideas probably through that's research in a way, you know, and your unconscious just always notices things.
It's chat. It's conversations that always lead to me. Like, so I think my biggest misconception is that I'm very productive and that I don't have bad habits, which is exactly the opposite. I'm the reason I'm building this product is for me.
Yeah. That actually makes me come back to one more question about the Pavlok. What is the craziest habit that you've come across that people that someone wants to get rid of using the Pavlok?
I saw somebody use Pavlok to get a girlfriend, which was really cool.
How does that work?
Every time a pretty woman walked into a room that he was in for the first 12 days, if he didn't go up and talk to her, he would zap himself 5 times or something. Oh, and by day 7, he got a girlfriend.
Hey, that's really cool.
We had one guy who built it. He used it to get over negative thoughts. We've been seeing a lot of users use it for getting over like self-critical thoughts about themselves. Or we had this one woman, fascinating story. She had a form of depression. She was clinically diagnosed with depression. Mm-hmm. She said, "Can Pavlok help me fix this depression?" And I said, "Look, I don't believe we can fix anything chemical. And depression is usually chemical. But I also believe some forms of depression are habit-based. They're just thought-based. So what I want you to do is wear your Pavlok. Every time you catch yourself in a depressing state, press the zap button twice, and then then smile, and then text me where you are." And on day 1, she caught herself at work. Day 2, on her way to work. Day 3, reaching for her front door. Day 4, front door. Day 5, front door. I said, "What is up with your front door?" There was a vase sitting next to her front door. When she was 16, she and her twin sister had a birthday party, and all these people came and gave her sister gifts, and nobody gave her a gift. So her sister had said, "Oh, here, have this vase. It's like a little gift for you." That vase was triggering these thoughts: nobody loves me, nobody cares. So she got rid of the vase, and the depression went away. So that was really cool to see. Some things are so trigger-based.
Wow. This is amazing. This is actually a really, really cool story. Yeah, I love it. I have one more question for you, Maneesh. I know you...
Sure, take your time. I got another 5 minutes, so if you want to ask any other questions, no worries.
Cool. And this is actually by our mutual friend again. I always say common friend. Demu Aina from Finland. And he wants to know, what do you think after the Pavlok? Because he's always interested in how the future is going to look like. What device is going to be the next breakthrough in the world of biohacking? Do you have any thought of that?
I think we're well, with Pavlok, for example, I'm not intending to end Pavlok anytime soon. Pavlok is not a device. It's a platform. It's a system. It's a way of living. And so we're moving towards how does that become more symbiotic with your body? Like right now, Pavlok is a device you strap on. When I go on Facebook, I get zapped, and then I go to take a shower, and I take it off before I get in the shower, and suddenly I never put it on again, and it's another goddamn Fitbit. That's not okay with me. It's very important to me that I'm symbiotic with your body, that you need me as much as I need you. So without giving away too much what we're doing, we've learned some very powerful information about how we can train subconscious senses, how we can train sensory input and sensory output, how we're able to control the world and also learn from the world without needing any cognitive training. And that can all be done with a small wrist-based device. As we move forward, you can see the body becoming a platform where the body and the sensors connected therein, not directly, but through the air, are able to receive information about the world and reflect that as feedback upon the body in multiple ways. And that stuff will be cool.
Wow.
That stuff will be cool.
No, I'm really excited about this thing. Do you think that there could also be like a device that injects, I don't know, a small pharmaceutical into your bloodstream whenever you do something really good and then reward you that way?
So there's a company which released it's out of Europe actually. They built and raised $35 million for this wearable that injects nicotine into your body automatically for cravings. And it's obviously like designed for injecting materials under your skin. I am so excited for that because I've talked a lot about nicotine and stuff in the past, but there's a lot of space available for chemicals, meat automation. So that stuff combined with other stuff, definitely cool. But at the core here, I think biohackers are just druggy kids who want to be smart in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, hey, well, I'm doing drugs, but to be smarter, not to be in trouble with the law. But at the end of the day, you're just doing drugs instead of just focusing on actually finishing your goddamn work, right? And you're looking for solutions to fix your problem rather than just fixing the problem yourself. And that's not the problem. A lot of these things comes down to you feeling like you should be doing something that you're not naturally good at doing. It's like me trying to fill out a spreadsheet. If I do enough drugs, then yeah, maybe I can get myself to fill out a spreadsheet. But why? Why would I do that in the first place? If I do enough drugs, I can get myself to clean my apartment. Well, why would I just pay somebody else to clean it for me? So I think the first thing that we need to do is to understand who you really are. Most people, in fact, almost nobody knows who they are. They don't know why or when or what they do. They think that they do things for reasons that are rational, but it's almost always irrational. That identification is really core. Before you start throwing in drugs to cure your problem, like when I started taking Adderall, I was like suddenly having like 15 Facebook chat messages at the same time instead of 3. It was making me do what I already did better, but that doesn't mean it was the right thing to do. So what I feel like the next key in biohacking, it has very little to do with the bio or the hacking. It has a lot to do with the accountability and the human being or the friend who you can't cheat. People always work well when they're being watched. People always work well when there's a penalty. People don't work well when they're left to their own devices. Good example, at work, I'm healthy, I eat right, I'm very nice and kind here. But when I go home, every night, almost without fail, I binge eat. And I use Pavlok to help cut it down, but it's still like overeating. And but when I have a friend over at my house, I'm not. Why is there no friend at my house all the time? It doesn't need to be a human friend. It could be a visual friend. It could be a robot. It could be AI. It could be this Bluetooth headset calling me if it catches me overeating. Why is that not there? That's going to be the new future of biohacking. It's going to be accountability.
Wow, this is deep stuff, and I love how authentic you are, by the way, and how you always also explain, the things that you fail on. I think that makes you very charismatic.
No, dude, there's nobody I hate more than myself, man. I'm like the biggest failure in my own mind.
I don't hate yourself. We love you. We love you, Maneesh, and I love you. By the way. Now,
I made a discount code for your users too. If they want to try out Pavlok, they can go to buy.pavlok.com. Actually, you know what? I'll just redirect them to pavlok.com/flowgrade.
Cool. That's awesome.
And they can use the code flowgrade to get 15% off.
Oh, this is fantastic. Want that out there for Christmas. This is ideal.
Definitely great Christmas gift.
So,
and that's also New Year's resolution. It'll help you stick to New Year's resolution. And here's the best part about our product. So most habits take 5 to 7 days to quit. About half our users quit their bad habit in 5 days or less. Our product has a 30-day money-back guarantee. We recommend, and we are totally okay with you buying our product, using it to quit an addiction, and sending it back. Happy to do it. All I ask is that you let us know and give us tell us your story. Because the goal at Pavlok, the only key performance indicator that we track is number of bad habits broken. It's not revenue, it's not sales, it's number of bad habits broken. So please buy the product and return it. Whether or not it works, I don't care. But if it does work, I just ask that you fill out our spreadsheet form or you tell us about how it helped you break a bad habit, because that's the goal here.
Amazing, Maneesh. I think that's a great point, actually, to end this podcast right now. This is a fantastic gift. There's so much passion there. I think everyone who's listening right now, they'll want the Pavlok right away, and they'll go on that link. And
sure. So pavlok.com/flowgrade should get you there.
And I'll follow up with you anyways, but I definitely want to have you back on that podcast in let's say in some months and hear about your progress, because I think you're going to be huge. I think this is going to take off.
Thanks, man. I hope so.
Thank you so much. Stay flow great.
Awesome. Stay flow great. Ciao.
Ciao. This is it with another episode of the Flowgrade Show. Thank you very much for listening or watching, and I'll see you next time.